In the previous video, I did an overview of my latest addition to the guitar collection, and that was a 2025 Gibson Les Paul 60s standard custom shop top honeyburst with 60s burstbucker pickups. I'm going to put this guitar in a side-by-side tone test with my Gibson Les Paul 50s standard gold top with P90 pickups. I'm going to be using my little Black Star Studio 10 hybrid valve digital amplifier, so there's no extra processing involved. A simple setup so you can hear what those pickups are actually sounding like side by side. Now, questions often asked, particularly when there's only enough funds to purchase one of these guitar models, is, do they feel very different to play? Is the 50s neck like a baseball bat, or is the 60s neck too small and skinny? When it comes to pickups, how different are the P90s from the 60s burstbuckers? What about tuning issues? How do the old vintage deluxe tuning pegs fare up against the more modernish Grover type? Hello viewer, my name's Stu, welcome to the channel and my guitar journey. Once again, my opinions, they are my own. I'm not being paid to mention any products here. Now, if you like the content, please do think about giving a thumbs up, subscribing, commenting below, and do share with others, as it all helps those channel algorithms out. So coming up, number one, the guitars and a very brief side-by-side comparison, specifications on both. Number two, side-by-side tone test, clean and overdriven. Number three, my likes and dislikes, the pros and the cons. Number four, conclusion, final remarks. So without further ado, number one. Now, if you're looking for either of these models, I've done an in-depth overview on each, so do check those out if that interests you. Now, the Gibson Les Paul 50s standard and the Les Paul 60s standard, at first glance, they look fairly similar, notwithstanding that these two particular models are, of course, finished differently, one being a gold top and the other being a honey burst. Now, starting at the headstock, the most noticeable feature difference is the gold top has vintage deluxe tuners with keystone style buttons, while the 60s standard has Grover tuners with kidney bean buttons. Now, the 50s standard has a fairly beefy neck profile, while the 60s standard has a slim taper profile. Both have a very different feel, but both are comfortable for folks with average sized hands. Now, I like playing both and have no preference one over the other. Now, the other specs are pretty much the same: a 12-inch radius rosewood fingerboard, 22 medium jumbo frets, etc. The gold top sports the P90 pickups as opposed to the 60s standard sporting 60s burstbucker humbucking pickups. Now, just as an aside, I've done a review on the gold top Gibson P90 pickups in a side-by-side comparison with custom shop P90 pickups, which are in my Les Paul special double cut. And you can see that review on my channel playlist. So regarding P90 pickups, the P90s are well known for being noisy. As for the rest of the layout, other than the period style of control knobs, everything else is pretty much the same. This 50s gold top standard comes in at £10, while the 60s standard comes in at just shy of £9.2, unless you have some health issues with your back or your arms. The difference feels negligible, or to me at least, that's how it feels. Now, both guitars are finished in nitrocellulose lacquer, although I would say that the lacquer on the 50s standard is much thicker and feels softer. This can be very slightly remedied by cutting and polishing the back of the neck, but the most effective method is to actually sand the lacquer down. Now, not down to the wood, but just enough to give a satin finish and a smoother feel. Now, looking at the back of the control cavities, both guitars have orange drop capacitors, although the 50s model is wired slightly differently than the 60s model. So that's all I'm going to mention in regard to specifications, as these are the main points. And as I say, if you want to know a bit more detail, you can check out my reviews on each model. So number two, side-by-side tone test. I will be playing through a small 10-watt Blackstar 6L6 Studio 10 combo amplifier, which is a hybrid digital valve amplifier. It will be mic'd up with a Sennheiser MD421, and that will go straight into a small mixer and into the actual video camera. Now, I'm not doing this in my recording studio because most folks watching don't have access to expensive, complex recording setups, and besides, I don't want to shape or give a false representation of what most folks will hear on a relatively affordable amplifier. Now, the amp is set for a partially clean sound. It has a tiny amount of valve edge breakup tone. I have a little reverb dialed in, and I'll strum and pick some chords and lead runs, starting with the 50s standard Gold Top. Now, the second test, I'm now going to add some more overdrive on the amplifier, so again you can hear the difference between these pickup types, starting with the 50s standard Gold Top. And finally, the third test, I'm going to engage an Ibanez Tube Screamer, an affordable and very popular dry pedal, starting with the 50s standard Gold Top. Number 3, likes, dislikes, pros and cons. Now, my likes, both guitars have a place in my music projects. The tonal differences lend themselves to different styles of music, but without doubt, each guitar with its different pickup configuration gives a full, thick tone. As mentioned, the P90s are more noisy, particularly at high gain volumes or when using overdrive or distortion pedals. Now, the neck profiles, which of course have a very different feel, are nevertheless, they are both comfortable and they suit my average size hands. I personally don't find any issues moving from guitar to guitar. However, everyone is different and has different tastes or needs, and if you're unsure about neck profiles, then you do need to get along to a music store, try some out. Now, my dislikes. Yes, the weight of Les Pauls are often spoken about, but interestingly, I don't really ever remember anyone in my music circles criticising heavy guitars back in the 1970s. In fact, a lighter guitar might often be viewed as being made of poor quality materials, as they often were. As my guitars are used in a recording studio environment, weight is not really an issue for me. Certainly, there's a lot to be said for having a nice, wide, comfortable guitar strap. Now, in regard to the actual body shape, I don't find Les Pauls particularly comfortable. It's as though the bottom body curve is in the wrong place, causing the guitar to sit just a little too far back when resting on your leg. If you compare that with a similar slab of wood, the Telecaster, its body curve is a much better fit when rested on your leg. All a moot point if you're standing and playing, and sometimes I'll wear a guitar strap even when sitting to give me better back posture. As a Fender Strat Tele guy, the Les Paul standards are definitely nowhere near as comfortable. That does not make me want to own one of the more modern Les Paul type guitars with various body carves that address those comfort issues. Now, of course, these guitars are based on the 50s and 60s, and some of the electronics have their own quirks, such as when dialing back the volume controls, you can lose a good deal of the higher frequencies very quickly. But all in all, for me, that's part of the traditional mojo. Tuning issues, they're often spoken about when talking about Gibson guitars. However, it's just part and parcel of an old design. And I will say, however, as long as the tuning pegs are operating correctly, it's best to check that the strings are not slipping, the nut is cut correctly, and there's no binding on the bridge saddles due to wear and tear. And if all of that's in place, then tuning should be pretty stable, depending on your playing style and the environment that you're playing in. Hot, cold, damp, humid. The gloss nitro lacquers can be quite thick, and when that is the case, your hands can feel like they're being restricted when moving up and down the neck. As mentioned, the only real answer to that is to sand it down and give it a flatter feel. So all in all, perhaps due to my age and having grown up in the age of Fenders and Gibsons, not knowing anything else, a time where modifying your guitars, smashing them up and or setting them on fire was not an uncommon practice. And I think very few people back then thought that guitars from the 50s and 60s would ever become vintage and fetch outlandish prices, creating endless debates on internet forums. So number 4, conclusion. If you're looking to purchase a Les Paul and you're unfamiliar with them, I would strongly recommend that you go along to a shop and try out a few. But do bear in mind, if looking at either the 50s or 60s models, they are old classic designs and you'll either love them or dislike them. Next time round, I'm looking to flip the magnet in the front humbucker of the 60s Les Paul for that classic out of phase sound. Do check out my channel playlist where you'll find many videos regarding my journey back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. Lots of stuff on guitars, amplifiers, pedals, and my ongoing recording journey. Now, I want to say a big thank you to those who do take time to comment or chat. I always take time to engage with folks who take time to comment. So until next time, the journey continues. Take care.